Who knows? There's probably some game theory enthusiasts out there who would argue that New World Order Fantasy League might actually accurately predict the Antichrist better than any researcher ever could.
Probably. Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Joyspiracy Theory. Your buddy Basil here. We've got a great show. Thanks for tuning in again, all you folks. And if this is your first time, hello, welcome. Coffee and donuts are in the corner. They're free for you. Oof, I'm a dummy. Anyways, this week we've got the wonderful, smooth, and sultry voice, those golden vocal cords of Derek Gilbert, of Skywatch TV, of PID Radio, of View from the Bunker, of just being held in with such tenderness in all of our hearts. He's a wonderful guy, him and his wife, Sharon. She's a lady. She's a wonderful lady. And she's not here. This is just Derek. And personally, I don't think I've ever just interviewed Derek before. So we got to hang out. We talk about all sorts of stuff. We talk about armadillos. Talk about our New World Order fantasy game, Fantasy League. We'll explain that one. What else? Oh, and marriage. There's your pop culture reference for the day. You're welcome. So, before we get right into it, make sure to go to the Facebook for the Joyspiracy Theory. This is also on YouTube, and if you're listening to this on YouTube, why don't you head over to iTunes or whatever podcast app you use and subscribe there. That'll be wonderful. It's just right there on your phone, and you can hide the app without it turning off the audio. Isn't that annoying? You're doing something on YouTube on your phone, and you close the app or you switch over to your email or something, and it stops, and you just expect it to keep going, but it doesn't. Get on it, YouTube. Also, make sure to go to thejoyspiracytheory.com. Previously, I have not been posting the episodes right onto the website. I thought everybody would just get it on YouTube or get it on iTunes or Stitcher or whatever. But some of you requested that we just have it right on the website. So it's there. Go to thejoyspiracytheory.com and click on Listen, and you can find all the episodes there. That'll be wonderful. There you go. Okay, so let's get right into the episode, and I will see you guys on the other side. All right, here we go.
Hello there.
Mr. Gilbert, how you doing, buddy?
Doing fine. How are you, Basil?
Doing just great. I'm glad I caught you with this unsuspecting Skype call that you had no idea was coming.
Totally unprepared.
It took me a second, but after I reviewed the messages on all of the different messaging devices that we have, it was just me going, okay, are you ready? Almost ready? Okay, I'm almost ready. Give me a second. I'm almost ready. Here I go. Okay, ready? Okay, here we go.
All right, well, here we are.
So we made it. How you doing today?
Doing fine.
Good.
Fine.
What are you grateful for at this very moment?
Grateful to be married to a woman who is far above my station in intelligence, in temperament, and in godliness.
Correct answer. You get bonus points. Well, good, man. That's awesome. And for those listeners who do not know, you are Derek of Derek and Sharon Gilbert. Or
right. She's the smart
Sharon and Derek.
Yeah, she's the smart one.
Okay. Well, very cool. So, like I said, I'm glad to have you on to the Joyspiracy Theory. I don't know if you've listened to the show or heard about the show, but it's just kind of a show where we get together with our favorite fringe / prophetic / good-looking talk show hosts and researchers and authors, and just kind of just kind of talk about a lot of things. Actually, usually cats come up quite a bit, but also just what it takes to, keep a joyful heart, because those of us who are kind of steeped in this stuff, like you and I guess, a little bit more than maybe we should be, the only way we are able to carry on is because we've somehow found some way to keep moving.
Yeah, that's the thing that always puzzles me about people who are into conspiracy theories and the alternate media, but don't know Jesus Christ.
Right.
What could possibly motivate them to get out of bed in the morning, knowing that, the world is in the grip of a supernatural group of psychotic mass murderers who want to destroy us all. But, we know that it's only temporary, and that there is coming a day soon when their power will be broken.
Yep.
And that all tears will be dried and hurts will be healed. And the only urgency we feel really is to make sure that we take every opportunity to share that hope that we have with our friends, our family members, our colleagues, our coworkers, knowing that there will come a day when it'll be too late, and I'm not talking necessarily about the day of the Lord where he rains down hellfire and brimstone on the world, but none of us is guaranteed even another day on this earth.
Sure.
I mean, one wrong move, one moment of inattention behind the wheel of a car, or whatever, and you're called to account, and you get that one question entrance exam, and you'd better have the right answer to the question. Who do you say that I am?
Right.
And if you don't say it the same way Peter did, you might be in trouble.
There you go.
Or as our friend, the snarky Avenger says, if you don't know Jesus, you're screwed.
I saw a cartoon today on the internet that was a guy standing at the pearly gates with St. Peter there, and the little speech bubble with St. Peter says, "Sorry, either your username or password is incorrect."
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I recently had on. By the way, very good answer. We're gonna get into more of that in a little bit. But I recently had our mutual friend and loved one, Josh Peck, on the show here. Yeah. And as usual, very, very fun time. Have you gotten into any interdepartmental disputes with him yet over there at Skywatch TV?
Well, we keep trying to tell him and Joe Artist to keep it down because they keep laughing too loud. But other than that, no. I mean, it really is. I have to imagine it's hard for people to believe that we get along as well at Skywatch TV as we do, but we really do. And you've got almost every couple there. Well, every couple that's there has the same kind of relationship that Sharon and I have, from Tom and Nita on down. I mean, Josh and Christina, Joe and Catherine.
I was going to say, there's a lot of married folk over there.
There are.
Is that part of the entrance?
We all like each other.
Exam?
I mean,
you need to be married?
Not necessarily, but it seems to help because it's a lot easier to keep a good attitude about life in general.
Right.
You've got support at home,
Mm-hmm.
And I actually caught some flack about this because I asked Josh and Christina about this when we had a program that we did a few weeks back. It aired on Skywatch TV, just welcoming them to the team and asked them how they maintain their friendship. I have just taken as a matter of routine whenever I introduce Sharon on the program, calling her my best friend. Oh yeah, my wife. And Josh and Christina have that same kind of relationship. So I asked them, how do you maintain this? And they said, well, it's, because Jesus is in the center of our relationship. And I get that. Sharon and I have come to the conclusion that we find it really hard to conceive of any family, any couple that is able to maintain a marriage without Jesus being a part of it.
Sure.
because you are called upon when you're in close proximity to someone else a lot. You find you can find little things to annoy you to the point that you can, destroy a home. You can break up the home over things that in the end don't really matter much at all.
Right.
And it happens a lot in our society. Anyway, I made the comment that half of the marriages in our society break up, and the divorce rate among Christians is just as high as it is among non-Christians. And it turns out that when somebody called me on that, and I looked it up, and it was actually wrong. And the divorce rate among Christians is actually substantially lower. Now, of course, it depends on how you define your terms. There's a lot of people who say that they're Christians who are really cultural Christians. I'm a Christian because I'm not Hindu and I'm not Buddhist and I'm not Jewish.
Right.
So it kind of defines, depends on how you define your terms. But realistically, people who self-identify, the numbers are people who self-identify as Christians and evangelical Christians. Yeah, we're not perfect. We still have divorces, but there is a substantial difference between non-Christians and people who self-identify as Christians. So, and I think that just reflects the truth of it. That
is interesting.
Natural source of being able to forgive, and also to look in the mirror and say, you know what, she's right. I am wrong. It is my fault.
Right.
That's not our natural tendency. So,
well, it's interesting because there have been, and I'm sure this is where you heard it, that statistics where Christians, and often depending on what magazine you're reading, I guess, are getting divorced even more than the non-Christian folk.
Right. And again, it depends on how you define your terms, because, and I'm kind of compiling some numbers right now for a project I'm working on. And I'm hoping that if I keep saying this in public often enough, it'll shame me into actually finishing this book that I've started, that there are a large percentage of Americans who self-identify as Christian, but even, within Christianity, there's a wide range of flavors,
right.
all stripes. So what does that actually mean? There was a survey that was put out a couple of years ago in support. It was commissioned by the author of a book about end times prophecy, and the shock poll: 3/4 of Americans believe we're living in the end times. Okay. But when you look at, and of course, that's how the headline is put out there: shock poll.
Right.
No, it's clickbait.
3/4 of Americans.
Yeah. You'll never believe reason number 5.
Yeah.
So you look at a 2009 survey done by the Barna Group, which has been surveying American Christians on what they believe and on various other topics for a couple of decades. And in 2009, they repeated a survey they've done in years past, where they try to define how many Americans, what percentage of Americans actually have a biblical worldview, which they define as like 6 very basic points of doctrine, like Jesus was born of a virgin. Jesus lived a sinless life. You cannot earn your way into heaven by being good. Satan is a literal entity and not just a force or concept, things like that.
Right.
Christianity 101. And for the purposes of their survey, they define anybody who did not agree with all 6 of those propositions as someone who does not have a biblical worldview. So they found that in America, where 70% of us claim to be Christians, 3/4 of us shockingly say we're living in the last days, only 9% of Americans actually have a biblical worldview.
Wow.
And among evangelical Christians, people who call themselves born again, only 19% hold a biblical worldview, meaning 80% of them don't know enough about the Bible to know what they're supposed to believe, to be a Christian. So when 3/4 of Americans say we're living in the end times, yeah, okay, what does the Bible actually say about that? And when you call yourself a Christian for the purpose of this survey talking about your marriage, what does that really mean?
Sure.
How much Jesus are you actually bringing into your relationship, and how much are you actually trying to live according to the commands of Jesus? Love your enemies. Okay, if I've got to love my enemy, I guess that means I really, really got to love my wife. Right? So,
well, you just had all those stats just in the chamber ready to go.
Well, it's because I've been digging through this a lot, working on some stuff regarding end times prophecies and stuff. Ask me how many, percentage of Muslims in Afghanistan believe they're going to see the Mahdi in their lifetime. I can tell you.
Well, that's great. Actually,
62%.
Oh, well, I was I was trying to decide if I even wanted to bite that hook, but
that's a rabbit trail.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Okay, so this is actually pretty interesting because I believe, well, you're the first guest I've had on the show who, let me just say, you and your wife are a special case, kind of in the fringe community, in that you guys pretty much are a team. I mean, this might be the first time in any interview that I've done with you that it's been just you. I can't remember a time where it wasn't both of you. Not that I don't love you two together, but I did specifically ask for you apart for this interview.
That's true.
So there's a little hint for those of you guys can keep listening. Sure, and Gilbert will be up one of these times, and then I'll put both of you together, and it'll be a whole series.
Right now, she's in a soundproof room where she cannot hear my answers.
So we're gonna play a little marriage game with you guys.
Yeah, and here they are.
Okay, so I'm very interested as far as, I don't know, you guys waking up to prophecies / conspiracies / fringe Christian topics. What was that journey like for you, and did that happen alongside her, or was she the smart one and got to it first and had to, convince you otherwise? Or
well, she is the smart one. I will say something I repeat often because it's true, and the older I get, the more I realize my father was a lot smarter than I ever credited him.
Okay,
thought he was, and he's been gone for 10 years, and he keeps getting smarter. But he told me more than once, "Son, you married up." So
yeah, there you go. It's good when your dad tells you that. Then he's shooting you straight.
Exactly. Yeah. hang on to her. Yeah. She was raised in a church that taught prophecy. So she's been hearing this from the pulpit and on Sundays and on Wednesdays since she was a little girl. I was raised in liturgical denominations, kind of high church sorts of things.
Sure.
You don't, clap your hands. You don't, shout or anything that's not in the liturgy.
You're Lutherans or you're
right. Started United Church of Christ. This was back in the day before they really went hard left. At least that particular that particular church.
Sure.
Evangelical Lutheran Church, but even then, that was before the Evangelical Lutherans really went hard left.
Yeah.
But okay, very liturgical, dry, and the sermon is 15 minutes, joke at the open, joke at the close, and 15 minutes of, life coaching in between, more or less.
Yeah.
I was 35 and we were married already by the first time I ever heard, say, Genesis chapter 6, the Nephilim, talked about in church.
In the Lutheran church?
No, this was after
in a different.
We were attending. We got married in an independent Christian church, non-denominational, and then we went to an independent Baptist church for a while.
Ooh.
And that was interesting. I learned to say, amen and preach it, brother, with the best of them.
I was going to say, you've had the whole spectrum there. You went from pre-left Lutheran all the way over.
I was, in fact, I previously married for 10 years and
there you go.
Married a Roman Catholic. And after a year or two of debating what to do, I decided that, we got a daughter now. Don't want to start the argument about why does daddy go to one church and mommy goes to another church. All right. So I converted, and I was actually lived as a Roman Catholic for 7 or 8 years.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really fascinating.
That was at a point in my life where I didn't understand the difference. And frankly, I didn't want to dig too hard because I think in the back of my mind, if I knew that if I did, there would be questions that I would have to ask that would cause some really uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to address that. When the marriage broke up, I was distressed to learn that the Archdiocese of St. Louis, Missouri, wanted $1,800 to declare our marriage annulled.
What?
That's standard practice in the Roman Catholic Church, or at least it was in that day. Things may have loosened now in the last 20 years.
To just not be recognized, for the Pope to be like, okay,
the Roman
Jesus
Catholic,
is okay with it now.
Yeah, they don't cotton to divorce at all. But so they come up with a theological, a spiritual way of kind of working out a loophole by saying, well, it was never spiritually consummated or some such thing.
Sure. And there's a fee attached.
And there's a fee attached, right?
As there is usually when it comes to that.
And so that made me kind of angry because our daughter at that point was 6 years old. And I thought, okay, so what you're saying then is she's spiritually illegitimate? What? So I was angry about that. And so I started digging into the Bible. And admittedly, that was the wrong reason. I was trying to prove text to find out why I was right and the Vatican and the Pope were wrong.
Why you didn't have to pay the Vatican $1,800.
Yeah, and they're still waiting on that, by the way. So technically speaking, because it was never annulled, my ex is under Roman Catholic doctrine. She should not be allowed to take communion.
Wow.
Yeah, she's out. But that's between her and God. That's not up to me to say. Anyway,
sure,
like I said, and a lot of that, I would say almost all of that anger is gone. And again, that was supernatural. That's not me. Okay.
Mm. Anger towards the Catholic Church, or
well, in part, but also at my ex. So that was not a that's a difficult thing. I mean, that's one of those things where you dig into the Bible and you're looking for the proof text that says, okay, love your enemy, but it's okay if you hate your ex-wife. Well, I'm sorry, there's no there's no allowances in there for that stuff.
Right.
You have to love your enemy, and I wouldn't classify her as an enemy.
Yeah.
I at one point in my life I would have, but that's gone. That's past.
Now,
and the Bible, like I said, doesn't give you an out for people that you really want to be mad at.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, if I'm good, and this was when, just before Sharon and I met, that I was kind of going through this and working through all of this. And that was when I started digging into apologetics. Like, okay, all right, fine. So the Bible says this. So how do I know that this stuff is really real?
Yeah.
How do I know this stuff wasn't just made up by some first century Dr. Phil who is, tried to create this new religion and succeeded beyond his wildest dreams? And that's when I started reading things like, The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel, and Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell. Some other things that some very good apologists have put together. And like, okay, this really is real. Jesus did really say these things. Jesus affirmed the truth of the Old Testament. So now I've got a decision to make, because all of this stuff, and even though I had made a confession or profession of faith as a kid, like sixth grade or something, I really didn't understand what that meant.
Yeah.
But at the point that I was reading through the apologetics and it clicked into place, suddenly it was like, okay, now I really have to do something about this. And that means I've got to adjust my way of thinking and approaching a lot of things. And I didn't, turn, my whole life was, turned on a dime. But suddenly I knew without a shadow of a doubt that all of the stuff that was in the Bible that I've been hearing about was true. It wasn't always conveyed perfectly. Like I said, a lot of the early, and maybe because I wasn't paying attention when I was a kid either, but I don't recall a lot of that stuff. But anyway, as surely as I know, when I get out of bed in the morning, my feet are going to hit the floor. Okay, gravity. I know it's there. It's a constant. Okay, the same holds true for faith in God. Boom, it's there. I know it's a constant. That's not negotiable, and it changes the way you see everything around you, and over time, it changes the way you interact with other people. Even people that you were formerly mad at and want to rationalize a justification for being mad at. You have to, the Lord, Holy Spirit helps you work through all of that stuff. So anyway, now I'm going the long way around to your original question, was the conspiracy theory stuff. Anyway, Sharon, as part of prophecy, was taught all along that there was a shadowy group, perhaps, that was in league with the enemy. And so, she was kind of already on that track when we met. I'd taken to watching the X-Files a little bit when it first debuted, but, wasn't a program that my ex liked, so didn't watch it much. When Sharon and I met, suddenly, oh, okay, we got X-Files on Sunday. We got Millennium on Friday night. This is awesome.
Hey, there you go.
And then I started noticing that certain things in the world weren't as we were being told they were by the powers that be. I mean, everybody kind of has an idea that, oh yeah, the Kennedy assassination, yeah, there was more going on there, but we'll probably never know what it is. But you start realizing there are a lot more things out there that are maybe not as shocking, that are also controlled. Like just this past week, and in fact, I wrote an article for this about this for Skywatch TV over the weekend. Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, made the comment, maybe tongue-in-cheek, maybe just, explaining that the reason the Republican leaders of the Republican Party at the national level don't like Donald Trump is because, he's
not part of the club.
He's not part of the club.
He's paying his dues to the secret society, I think was like the exact words.
Yeah, exactly what he said. He said he's not been through the initiation rites.
Right,
he's not,
there it is.
Not a member of the secret society. And Gingrich might have just been, tongue-in-cheek, that, he's not one of them. He's brash. He's loud. He didn't go to Yale. But maybe he really meant what he said.
Right.
Because he was in a position to know. And interestingly, Antonin Scalia, the Supreme Court justice who recently passed, when he was in Florida or in Texas when he died, he was at a resort ranch in the company of a couple of high-ranking members of a group called the International Order of St. Hubertus, which is a very exclusive group devoted to the care and treatment of God's creatures and then hunting them, which was founded by a member of the Habsburg royal family in Bohemia in the late 17th century. And the American chapter was founded in 1966 in San Francisco at the Bohemian Club, which, of course, is the group that sponsors that retreat every year for elites at their campground in Sonoma County, California, the Bohemian Grove. Yeah. Where they hold the cremation of care ceremony in front of the 30-foot owl they call Moloch. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was Justice Scalia doing with these guys? Well, we don't know. We probably never will know, but their current Grand Master is still a member of the Royal House of Habsburg, the Archduke of Austria.
There you go.
So, under the royal protection of Juan Carlos, who we understand from sources, King Juan Carlos is also very well connected with this group that secretly controls things. So anyway, once my eyes began to open up, and of course with Sharon there, no longer was I, getting the with both of us pulling in the same direction, let's say, it was easier to pursue those things I'd always kind of been curious about anyway.
Yeah. And you seem to be like one of those curious cats anyhow, who's going to be, swatting a paw at the flame no matter where you are. I mean, obviously sort of submitting to the whatever Catholic Church or Lutheran Church or whatever, not God bless both of them, but just wasn't working out for you on top of everything else.
Yeah.
And so you just found your way.
Yeah, it was like I said, Nephilim was sort of a key word. And interestingly, and I've had the opportunity since to tell L.A. Marzulli this, but I went to the St. Louis County Library branch close to our home. And while I was there, and this was, just before the I guess the internet was still there, but it was still dial-up. So anyway, I was still checking books out of the library back in the day. Now, paper, but I searched for anything with Nephilim in the title, and the only book that was there was a book called Nephilim by Lynn Marzulli. That was before he went Hollywood. And but seriously, it was a novel and a pretty good one. Part of it is Nephilim trilogy, and I thought, wow, this is really fascinating. And these guys are in the Bible. Well, I wonder what else is out there that we can find. And then I stumbled onto Chuck Missler's book, Alien Deception, with and I can't remember the fellow, the Mark co-author. Anyway, it happened to be in the library of the church where we got married. So took that home and was read through that, and that kind of started the whole ball rolling to where we are today. But L.A. Marzulli and Chuck Missler, both influential in starting this train rolling.
I hear that a lot. I'll tell you what. And I think a lot of people out there are in the same boat. I know Josh Peck said he had the chance to tell L.A. Marzulli his story of how the Marzulli body of work led him into this area too. So.
Well, we had him on Skywatch TV. The episodes are coming up in about 2.5 weeks with LA, and Josh sat in on those interviews. So we had kind of a fanboy moment there where Josh and I were just sitting there going squee. That was kind of cool.
That's funny. It sounds like you guys have a lot of fun over there.
Yeah, it is. Today there was an email chain going back and forth. Tom usually works from home. We're over there at the office, but Sharon will often work from here at home. She does a lot of graphics and stuff, and she's in the middle of writing right now, working on a novel that sounds really fascinating. But this email chain going back and forth about how with the 10 acres that we've acquired out here on the Ozarks, which cost less than a little subdivision-sized lot that we had back in Illinois.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, that we're going to, open up our own little campground here and have start this cult going. And so there was a competition going on between, Tom said, well, hey, we got more room over here. We can have the cult over here. And so, it's who was going to set up the best groupie, the group gathering and have the best, coolest name for their cult. That's sort of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
That's funny. There was somebody on Facebook a little while ago who was noticing everybody moving out to that side of the country and made comments like, where's Basil and Gons? Are they going out there? Oh, well, Gons, nobody knows where Basil is. Maybe he's out there running the whole thing.
That's right. The power behind the throne.
Yeah.
Now, we're trying to convince everybody who comes out. Richard Shaw, who is LA's business partner in the Watchers DVDs, was just here last week.
Right.
And, we're trying to convince him. It's like, come on, man. I mean, you're living in Porter Ranch. You guys have got, you guys had a 4-month-long natural gas leak from the wells that are next door.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Come on. Out here, we get our natural gas naturally from the cows on the other side of the fence.
Did Josh, speaking of Skywatch and the team over there, Josh didn't happen to pass you a script of mine for my new television show, did he?
No, he didn't.
Well, we talked about it on his episode, and I think I've got a pretty good idea that might be a good addition to the primetime lineup for Skywatch over there.
I'm gonna have to ask Josh about it. I'm sure that'll be fun.
It's just I'll give you a hint. It's called "Oops, I Married a Nephilim." And I'll send a pitch deck over to you, and we'll see what we can work out.
It sounds great.
Josh was saying how since his new employment, he just gets inundated with requests to pass off, theories and books and names over to Tom Horn and the leadership over there.
Yeah, that is an interesting development.
Nobody. I don't think anybody's made it through the lines yet. Is there any sort of corporate punishment that happens if somebody ducks under the fences and makes it into the inner sanctum?
Well, we haven't found a need for that yet, but I will just say this, just so that it's public record, and consider this just in the spirit of friendly warning. The staff of Skywatch TV recently went as a group and qualified for our concealed carry permit.
Ah, there you go.
The trainer who conducted the testing said that this was the first time he had a group hit, where every single person qualifying hit 20 out of 20 on the target. So
wow.
Yeah, folks coming into Skywatch TV, authorized. Just
okay. Well,
it's a concealed carry state, and
all right. I'll let Josh bring in the rest of my TV pitches then.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't want to mess with the security there. Well, okay. Well, we'll when that makes it across your desk, we'll talk about it later.
Sounds good.
Now I did just want to go back just a little bit. We'll keep moving forward, but we'll keep moving back, and then we'll keep moving forward, and then we'll keep moving back. It's just kind of how we roll, man.
Forward, flashback, and then we'll do a flash sideways.
Yes, you get it. You're in television. You understand. We've got 3 different storylines going on. Just switch between so people don't get bored. Okay, and I only go back to this because it recently came up with a conversation with a listener of the show, actually, and that is regarding your first marriage. And obviously, if this is not something you want to talk about, we can just move on. But you you mentioned the discrepancy with your beliefs and how you kind of had to switch over. I mean, what kind of, because those who are not married, like myself, and like some others who listen to this podcast, you know, you hear, you know, don't be unequally yoked and all this biblical references that people make about not getting involved with somebody who is not, you know, a Jesus lover or something. I mean, would you have considered the Roman Catholic to Protestant separation as enough to be too big of a deal for that?
Well, you know, it's one of those, if I knew then what I know now, I would say yes.
Okay.
Because there are some basic tenets of Roman Catholic doctrine that are fundamentally incompatible with the Bible.
Right.
And either you're going to follow the traditions of men, or you're going to follow what we have been given in God's Word. But like I said, I was not really aware, didn't really know. And once I began to suspect, I didn't really want to know.
What does that look like? What does the suspecting look like on a practical sense?
When you become a member of the, for example, I was officially a member of the Roman Catholic Church for about 8 years, and I never once went to confession because I didn't.
Well, that's on you, buddy.
Yeah, I know it is. Still working on the penance there, and other things but that in particular kind of struck me as really off base, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And again, I didn't really want to dig too deeply because I didn't want to create an issue and create something that was going to cause a fight.
Yeah. Was that it? It was you didn't want to cause a fight, or you thought, you know, I don't know. Is there a more noble aspect of that?
Well, I mean, really, if you really want to get right down to it, it's, you know, how you know, choose this day whom you will serve. You know,
right.
And I was not willing to make that choice because I was more concerned about trying to preserve peace in the home than living according to the teachings of God.
Right,
you know?
right. What do you think would have happened if you hadn't switched over and you had been continuing to do the Protestant thing, and she was doing the Catholic jig? That's a technical term.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, and since that's water under the bridge, it's not a subject that I want to that I dwell on.
No, sure, and obviously, it's just out of curiosity for our single folk.
Well, my concern was that it would become a source of division, and that it would ultimately lead to making a choice. Either you choose to do this, or you know, you continue to do that, but do it by yourself because I'll be moving out. And I just didn't want it to come to that. So,
sure.
And obviously that implies that I was concerned that it might come to that. And as it happens, it turns out my suspicions, my fears, if you would, my fears,
right,
were correct. It may just have what happened may have just happened only sooner.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Now, I will say again,
for the record, that we've gotten past that, and Sharon and I actually helped my ex at a couple of points, you know, helped her move out of a bad situation, helped her when she, you know, I went over and helped carry furniture from the moving truck into the house when she moved into our neighborhood back there in St. Louis. So she moved about 3-4 blocks away, and, you know, our daughter, freshman year of high school at that point, went over and lived with her mom through high school.
Okay.
And, yeah, so
there you go.
It was not a bad situation, and we often wound up sitting next to one another at you know, marching band competitions and school like that, which, you know, is really a blessing.
Yeah,
because it meant that our daughter didn't have to worry about playing the mediator between mom and dad, which is really an ugly situation.
Yeah, that never turns out well.
No kid should be put in that situation. So
no.
And again, it's no credit on me because, again, natural tendency back when the things were happening was to, return fire with fire. And that's not what we're commanded to do in the Bible. So short of a supernatural intervention and the Holy Spirit just saying, you might want to think about this for just a little bit, and moderating that the natural tendency, I could have been a real, and there are things that I did that I regret, but I think there would have been a lot more if I had followed my natural tendencies.
Right.
So,
and in a way, it's kind of the searching that you had to do after the Catholic Church debacle, kind of ended up throwing you into a whole apologetics / prophetic type interest. Is that right?
Holy Spirit used it for good.
There we go.
Meant it for bad, and the Holy Spirit used it for good.
Amen, brother. Okay, so now you told us you go into the apologetics and you kind of start learning the things. You get the Nephilim book. L.A. Marzulli becomes one of your heroes that you just knew somewhere down the line you would get to meet and tell him this. You did. So for a lot of people, when they start discovering, like I said, the prophecy, the end of the world is right around the corner, the dark forces ruling the world, things like that, you can really start to, start to be quite the bummer, Did you experience any of that during your intellectual travels?
Well, at times, because there are times when you discover things that are going on that are really dark.
Yeah.
There's a global, I won't say global network. I don't know that for a fact, but there appears to be.
What a rational statement for you to say.
Well, I try to be careful not to stretch farther than the evidence.
Yeah.
Can really support.
No,
unless I say, I'm speculating.
Yeah.
I try not to go beyond where the evidence leads.
I'm the same way, especially with the recent flat Earth craze. People are asking me about it, and I simply don't have enough evidence to take a firm stand for me personally on that. I'll just say it here so people can,
it's interesting. We get a fair number of, I shouldn't say a fair number, but we get occasional email from folks asking us to talk about that on Skywatch TV, and our polite reply is, we are aware of the interest. However, we don't think the evidence supports the theory. So if we discussed it, you would likely not enjoy
the discussion.
I know some, and I don't mean to rabbit trail down this or to belittle or bash anyone.
No.
But, I know professional airline pilot, a guy I went to college with, who says, this topic drives pilots crazy because we know Qantas Airlines out of Australia flies a route across the Antarctic to get to South America, Rio de Janeiro. They fly a regular route across the pole. And there are a variety of other things out there, so we won't belabor the point. But
that's the company.
Frankly, I think the whole idea is interpreting the Bible through 21st century eyes and trying to read, cosmology from the 15th, 16th century BC through 21st century eyes.
Right.
And if you're going to do that and take the Bible literally on those things where, the earth is supported on pillars and stuff. Okay, well, yesterday we were reading in the Psalms about how, David was, my heart speaks to me, but the original Hebrew says my kidneys. So,
yeah.
So if you're going to take this literally, then you're going to take that literally too. And if not, then how are you being consistent in your exegesis of the scriptures? To me, frankly, it sets Christianity back literally 2,500 years, because it was about that time the ancient Greeks figured out the diameter, the rough, circumference of the earth,
right,
using geometry. So, anyway,
debunked.
Well, I doubt that's going to change anyone's mind who's already sold on the flat Earth. But I'm sorry, we have other fish to fry.
Yeah, there's other dark things going on besides the underbelly of the flat Earth.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were talking about
I completely forgotten your question, your original question there.
We're talking about what it was like when you first started learning all this stuff, and if I'm not saying there has to have been, if there were some dark moments, and if that resulted in like an ultimate dark moment, I guess.
No, not really. Again, there are times when you get upset at how evil people can be to other people.
Right.
And you look at, there was a book by a fellow who recently passed away, sadly, and I had gone too long without interviewing him because his book was really intriguing. Dave McGowan, the book called Programmed to Kill. And in the early chapters, he writes about something he called the pedopocracy, which is a great term that he coined. And he documents something that, William H. Kennedy, another brother who's gone home to be with the Lord, wrote about in his book, the Lucifer's Lodge, about the pedophile crisis within the Roman Catholic Church. But there was a case in Belgium in particular that really pointed out the ability of well-connected pedophiles to get away with just completely destroying the lives of children. The Mark Dutroux case, Dutroux, if anyone wants to look that up. And it's been a while, but it's kind of faded into the collective memory hole.
Right.
Mark Dutroux is one. The Franklin cover-up, the Franklin Credit Union scandal, Lawrence King of Omaha, Nebraska. That's another case that was really depressing and dark when you first began reading about it. And this was a big and very top of mind, even though the case itself goes back to like 1988. But there were aspects of the case that were still in the public eye in 2006, 2007, where a boy named Johnny Gosch, who had disappeared from, I believe, Des Moines, Iowa, it was believed that he had turned up again in Washington, D.C. And William H. Kennedy was on that story. There was a talk radio host from the Denver area named Michael Corbin who was talking about this. He was an excellent researcher. Sadly, he passed away too young. Alex Jones was talking about this to some extent as well. And it just brought up all of the Franklin cover-up stuff again. And when you start reading about that, there are a couple of books out there. Not Nick Franklin, I'm sorry. Now, anyway, if you Google Franklin scandal or Franklin cover-up, you will find the books out there. And again, it's just astonishing that so much evidence could be presented and have so few people actually pay a penalty for what they've done to children. That can really make you angry and really make you, angry almost to the point of doing things that would be against the law. So, certainly forget about still being Christian. This would be like against the law.
Yeah.
But
some vigilante.
That's where exactly. That's where you just have to remember the Old Testament verses that were quoted by the Apostle Paul. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay. And just have to remember that there is a day of reckoning coming for everyone. And those people who are getting away with things on earth today just had better be enjoying what they're getting today, because there's a day coming when they will be repaid for what they've done on this earth. And that's not to say that you earn your way into heaven. That's not it at all. All of us, entrance to heaven is the one question entrance exam, asked by Jesus, who do you say that I am? But all of us will be judged according to our actions, according to our deeds on the earth, and rewarded accordingly. And then, of course, all of the dross, all of the chaff burned away. And those of us who are, we get maybe our one crown for finally getting it right and doing some things right. The Apostle Paul gets his dump trucks full of crowns being backed up to him at this ceremony. But I have, no doubt that those who are committing unspeakable acts against other people, children, the elderly, is another case recently that came to my attention of elder abuse and a scam that is run against people who really aren't capable of managing their own affairs anymore, and who are basically finding that legally appointed guardians are draining their assets,
right.
Basically stealing everything that they've saved through a lifetime of work. That's the kind of thing that can make you so angry. But again, we just have to remember that vengeance is God's business. He's going to take care of it. He will repay. And so ultimately, you just step back, you pray, and you read the end of the book again just to remind yourself that in the end, the good guys win. All of this stuff that is happening out there, there will be an accounting.
Right.
So
it sounds like you got a pretty good level head about the whole thing.
Well, I hope so.
Well, that's good, because I'll tell you, that is not common, and it was not the way for me. I mean, when I learned that, pretty much every thing that I was putting in my mouth, whether it be water or food or, some sort of canned beverage, it was all designed to, basically bring me down. That was a little hard to deal with in particular.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things one of the reasons I was a little late tonight is I'm working on a project for Joe and Donna at the office. They've written the book Dead Pets Don't Lie, which is about what goes into our pet foods.
Right.
And, I'm doing the audiobook version of it. So as I'm reading this, and today was especially difficult because I had to read the Latin names of a lot of pests that can affect the quality of pet food. And so anyway, there was a lot of that going on today. But when you start reading some of the things that go into your pet's foods, I mean, that can send you into a real bad mood as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of pets, let's get into it. That was an awesome segue. Listeners of the show will know that I have a little feline, who gets the highest quality of food, but still,
good, excellent. Yes.
I don't know. I'll have to send it into the laboratory to see. Is there a list of approved pet food vendors in that book that you are recording?
No, just things to look for on the label.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm
just one tip: avoid things with meat byproducts or protein meal.
Okay.
You don't want to know what goes into that stuff.
Oh my gosh, I have an idea in my mind. It looks like something like the pink sludge that chicken McNuggets are made out of, but probably nominally more terrifying.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. At least the pink sludge that goes into the McBurgers is approved for human consumption.
Yikes.
The stuff that goes into the bone meal and protein meal and what they call the raw that gets turned into the protein additive for pet foods is the stuff that doesn't qualify as human consumables. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, you don't want to know. Don't want to know.
Monty.
If you've got a pet, I would recommend the book Dead Pets Don't Lie. It is an eye-opener.
Monty, we need to get you an Amazon account. Okay, well, so there we go. So now has this changed? You have a little pooch, don't you?
Yes, Sam T. Dachshund is the most recent. He's been with us for 8 years now. We got him in 2008, but prior to that, we had a cavalcade of dogs. I had Belle and Gretel. Both were lab mixes. One was a yellow lab German Shepherd, and Belle was a black lab Springer Spaniel mix. Then we had Murphy, who was he herded the other two dogs. He was a Shih Tzu Lhasa Apso mix, we were told, but he looked like he had some terrier in there. His legs were too long. Yeah, we had the trio for a while. In fact, we actually, in the early PID radio days, we posted a picture to the web of the three of them wearing tinfoil hats, which we made for them.
That's cute.
In fact, I featured those on a recent update on Skywatch TV. But when we moved, I had my midlife crisis in 2006 and had to go back into radio after leaving professional broadcasting in 1992. We weren't sure we'd be able to rent a place that would be pet friendly, and so we rehomed Murphy. Yeah, Sam has been with us since the Indiana days, and he's probably 15, 16 now.
Wow, he's an old boy.
Yeah, he's like me, gray on the sides of the muzzle, you know.
So
he's
now,
still active when he wants to be. He chased off a couple of dogs in the middle of the night a couple of months ago.
I heard about that.
Yeah,
I heard about that on The Wire.
That was, yeah, that was a mistake on my part. Don't open the front door to let him out unless you got him on the leash. Well, we got the front yard fence now, so that's okay. The coyotes that we hear at night, the armadillos that are very thoughtfully aerating our yard for us.
You have armadillos over there?
Yeah, armadillos in Missouri. You'll find them pretty pretty much everywhere in the southern half of the state, at least the southwestern quarter of the state. Anything below Interstate 44, pretty much as far as Rolla. Is
it possible to keep an armadillo as a pet?
Don't know. Most people recommend against it. They carry diseases around. Yeah, like leprosy is what I've heard.
Leprosy?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, armadillos are not the brightest animals in the world. We've seen a lot of them since we've come down here, and we noticed about 5-6 years ago. Sharon came down when we were still in the St. Louis area. No, I guess more than that now. Good night. 10 years ago, Sharon came down. We came down to so she could be a guest on a talk show about her novel, The Armageddon Strain, and
the Armadillo Strain.
Yeah, the Armadillo Strain.
Thank you very much.
We noticed on the way back from Springfield, like every mile, there was another dead armadillo on the side of the road. We wondered, what are they invading the north? I mean,
they're just coming up in hordes.
Yeah, but we have yet to see a live armadillo. We have seen dozens of armadillos since we moved here a year ago, but we've not yet seen a live one.
They're like armadillo ninjas.
I think they're just flat stupid.
They're idiot.
Their natural defense mechanism is when they are startled, they rear back on their hind legs.
Really? Expose their delicious meaty undersides?
Well, yeah, why not? Hey, look, you got the shell roll up into a ball. No, they rear up on their hind legs, which when you're out on, Highway 213, and a truck's coming at you at 60 miles an hour, that's a bad defense mechanism.
Yeah, that's about as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
Armadillos used to be my favorite animal. Like,
they're pretty cute.
They're pretty cute, and I thought the whole shell thing was pretty cool. I think it shows just how much of an introvert I am and was even more when I was a child.
Yeah.
Like, I could just curl up and nobody could touch me or talk to me or do anything. Oh, sounds like a dream. Also, I think it might be because I played Pokemon, and my favorite Pokemon was also an armadillo Pokemon. So,
okay.
I think.
Yeah, they are neat, and you can hear them at night. I've heard them on the deck, and it sounds like you got a human walking around in the brush out by the fence. It's like, what the? Take the flashlight out there, you don't see anything because it's an armadillo. They're just not
very heavy-footed.
Yeah, not very stealthy, and they dig lots and lots of holes in your yard.
You're really poking a lot of holes in my favorite animal. My former favorite animal skill set. Do you have anything good to say about armadillos?
Well, they are eating up the bugs that are eating the lawn. So
there you go.
They are aerating, so we'll have a lush green lawn.
There you go.
Nearly bug free.
There you go. Armadillos eating the bugs, so you don't have to.
That's right.
There's this tagline.
But yeah, I didn't know. Lived in St. Louis for like 17, 18 years. Had no idea that armadillos were all over Southwest Missouri.
Wow.
But it's like, I grew up in Chicago, and when you grow up in Chicago, you think nothing happens south of Interstate 80, which is Joliet. And after spending 4 years living in the southern part of the state and seeing people on a daily basis below Peoria, I understand why the rest of Illinois hates Chicago.
Does Sam have any armadillo friends?
Well, he's out there looking for Marvin. He's named him Starvin' Marvin Armadillo. Starvin' because of the number of holes. Clearly, he's trying to stock up.
He's desperate.
But he's never yet confronted him because Sam sleeps all night, and that's when Marvin's out there working. And so they just pass each other, I guess, when they punch in and punch out.
Yeah. It's like ships in the night.
Yep.
Now, besides your TV hosting, your researching, your audiobook recording, all of the great things that you're doing for the world and the community here, what else? You got any hobbies? What do you do? What do you do when you're not exposing the darkness, Derek?
Well, I had been, up until we moved, singing pretty actively with a barbershop quartet and barbershop chorus.
No. Did I know
So,
this?
also a gospel quartet.
That is awesome.
I've been singing barbershop since I was in high school. So
what? Why have you not done this at any of the conferences? This is something I'm trying to kind of, if I was to put on a conference, it would have all your hits, you know, your L.A. Marzulis, your Michael Heisers, but then there would be like, you know, Derek Gilbert and the Dandelion Dandies, or whatever your thing would be. And then, you know, then there would be a live taping of Oops, I Married a Nephilim.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Gons Shimura and Space Weapons.
Yeah.
6.
Gons with the Wind.
Oh, bam, Derek. Nice.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So what was I going to say? Oh,
what I do during the summer months is I play fantasy baseball. I'm in Mike Heiser's Naked Bible Fantasy Baseball League.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, for the 4th year. Last year, the Ozark Ramblers placed 9th out of 10.
Yeah.
So
the nerdiest jock thing to do.
I avoided it for a long time because I know how I get with stuff like that. And it's kind of how I was with the singing. And that's why I've not, I know that there's a barbershop chorus in Springfield, Missouri.
Right.
And in fact, they had a quartet from the chorus there that placed among the top 20 in the world year before last at the international contest. So they've got some good singers there, but I know how I get with that stuff.
Do you consider...
I don't take time away from what Sharon and I are doing together to go do that.
Okay. So
she loves opera. So she's not a barbershop. I mean, she's been very gracious in tolerating it, and she enjoys when I'm doing it, but it's not something she will seek out.
I will say, I think she's like with the majority of wives at that point. When it comes to barbershop quartets. I'll just throw it in there just to mention. I actually joined for one session. I went to the local barbershop quartet club, but it wasn't a quartet; it was a chorus.
Right.
And sang with them, and it was fun. Albeit they were a little bit too excited to have somebody as young as I was.
Oh, yeah. Because the average age of a guy in the society is about 65. You know, I was like 53 when we moved, and I was still one of the young guys.
Yeah, no. And so I got a lot of, I think all the attention kind of scared me off a little bit. But it was fun. Do you consider yourself like a nerdy fellow? And when I say that, I don't mean it in the bad sense. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
Yep. Because you got fantasy baseball, you got the barbershop quartet, which I think is awesome. But the fantasy baseball, you know, I always find that the nerdy leaning people like that stuff because, you know, nerdy people like you and myself like to work within systems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a great way to do it without playing Dungeons and Dragons or some other thing like that.
Well, yeah, because like I said, I know how I get with stuff like that, and I didn't want to spend all my time on it, but I've been able to limit it to just the one league, and so that is something to unwind. I can check the box scores at night. That's helped me develop, or redevelop my appreciation for baseball. I was a huge baseball fan when I was a kid, so.
Back
now
when you'd be singing with the fellas and
no, going back even further than that. When I was a
game.
And growing up in Chicago at the time that the Cubs were, had their brief period of competence in the late 60s and blew that lead in 1969 to the Mets. But, that was a lot of fun. But I kind of lost interest when, the guys got, richer than the top players are making more money per year than many small nations in the Southern Hemisphere.
I was going to say townships at least.
Yeah, exactly. But the, fantasy baseball is a fun way to kind of reconnect for the game and know who the players are. So
plus you can chat with the fellas about it.
It does sometimes put you in a weird situation where you're rooting for your favorite team, in this case, the Chicago Cubs or the Cardinals, as long as they're not playing the Cubs, to win. But you got a key player on the opposing team. It's like, boy, I'd really like this guy to hit like a 3-run home run, but then get thrown out the same, before he gets home or something. It's like totally
really specific bets.
Exactly. Yeah. If he could hit a double and then get thrown out on his way to third base, so that the pitcher, who is on the other, he was also on my team, but he's for the other team in this particular situation, doesn't lose the game. It makes for some really weird stuff. It's
funny.
Fun.
I think we should make a game, and it's fantasy New World Order. And everybody in the league picks their favorite New World Order operative.
That's it.
You'll have the politicians, obviously. Obama, he's a good catch. Hopefully, if you get pretty high up in the draft, you can get
Snack
Obama.
Him, sure.
But everybody's on there. Gingrich is on there. You got. Obviously, all the known Rothschilds.
Oh, Rothschilds, Rockefellers.
Yeah. I think and then we just follow the headlines or Skywatch TV and see who's doing what and dish out the points that way.
I think that's brilliant. I think that is brilliant.
Derek, I am full of so many good ideas on this show. It's a shame that I put them out into the air because then other people are going to steal them. Oops, I Married a Nephilim and New World Order Fantasy League.
Yeah, I think. Well, that is phenomenal. Yeah, we'll have to work on that.
Yeah, I was going to say Don't steal it, but I'm willing to bring you in on the project and we can figure it out.
Trademark it.
I'm doing it right now. Okay, there we go.
Just registered the domain. Okay.
I might actually go on and register the domain right now. Oh my goodness. Man, I'm just so impressed with myself. I lost my train of thought there. Who would be your number one draft pick for New World Order Fantasy League?
Oh gosh, well, let's see. I was going to say like an up and coming rookie choice would have been Marco Rubio, but he seems to have disappointed here in recent days. And apparently he's gotten the wrong people ticked off because word is now starting to leak out about his extramarital affairs. It's like, okay, Marco, you're going to quit before the Florida primary so we can derail the Trump train. You're not going to quit? Okay. Get the mistress on the phone. We're going public.
Oh, geez.
So I think that's kind of how that's working out.
Whoever got stuck with him in the draft is not happy.
Yeah, I mean, you got the old reliable Bill Clinton. He's getting a little older, but you can still count on him for.
He's still got some stats in him. Is that a term that we'd use in a fantasy league?
Yeah, you have to quantify stuff, but I'm sure you could. And then you get some of the Royals out there, which would be really good. Prince William, I think, would be a good up and coming choice. I think I'd probably go for Prince William.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Sorry, folks. Prince William has been drafted by Derek Gilbert.
First round.
And it's not a surprising choice, but Gilbert's got to be happy about that one. He's having
a great day.
He's having a real good day.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to figure out. I really would want to have actually announce the maybe a live stream of the draft while the draft is happening, kind of like the football draft.
Yeah, just having the draft would probably be enough. Just for fun, would be entertaining. I think,
even if we have no idea how to actually play the game.
Exactly. We'll just
Who knows?
Because there's a sports talk show in Chicago that does that with movies and with supermodels or whatever comes to mind. They'll have their mock draft for
that's funny.
Charles Bronson movies or whatever.
Who knows? There's probably some game theory enthusiasts out there who would argue that New World Order Fantasy League might actually accurately predict the Antichrist better than any researcher ever could.
Probably. Yeah. You've got your money where your mouth is. You're going to choose and choose wisely. Yeah.
I'm definitely buying the domain right after our conversation. Okay. All right. So we're doing good. So now let's see. How long have we been talking here, pal? Are we doing good? We're about an hour in.
So
we're good. How are you doing on time?
Unfortunately, I haven't had dinner yet, and so my blood sugar's beginning to drop. So,
buddy.
Yeah, sorry about that. I've spent more time trying to figure out my way through those Latin names of flower weevils.
Okay, so we'll start wrapping it up here for you, so you can go have a little snacky poo.
I appreciate that.
Is Sharon cooking tonight? What's your cooking situation?
Some chicken and Asian vegetables.
All right, sounds good. And what about for Sam? Does he eat with you guys, or now that you know the ingredients of his dog food?
The sad thing is that he seems to be doing okay, and he really, really likes one particular brand of food. He was always like that stuff that looks like the fake cheeseburger,
I don't know, but that sounds delicious.
Well, I don't want to look at the label because I don't want to know, but it's what he likes. We supplement it with a little wet food. Generally speaking, wet food better than dry.
There you go.
Better than the kibble.
Yeah.
And we supplement with some, protein off of our plates as well, which helps. So he naps a lot, but then, so do we.
Yeah. So let's do this. We'll close out. Why don't you? Let me see if I can put this in a impactful yet not intimidating manner. So in this life of learning about the way the world is actually working, researching the prophecies in the Bible, fulfilled and unfulfilled, and being mindful of the different ways that we're being poisoned every day, what are some practical things that have helped you in your journey to either overcome those obstacles or let you stay joyful in spite of the darkness?
Well, like I said before, and I said it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but knowing that ultimately Christ and those who are his followers are victorious, and that God will repay the enemy for the injuries that they have inflicted upon mankind is uplifting. I mean, we know that things, we're behind enemy lines effectively, and that's why things are the way they are in the world, but it won't always be that way. Take joy in the beautiful things that are around us. So we are blessed. We were able to get out of the city, and friends that I know that are from the Chicago area, and I keep in touch with a couple, when I tell them, hey, look, we got cattle behind us, we got goats on the property next to us, and on the other side I can hear roosters every morning, the rooster waking us up, coyotes singing us to sleep at night, and they just kind of go, oh, because they want to hear the sounds of buses and trucks, all night long, that reassuring rumble of technology showing mankind's dominance over nature or something.
Progress.
Yes. But I love it. And yesterday, Sharon and I, as part of the weekly online Bible study that we've been putting together, which shows that you don't need to be a scholar in order to actually get more out of the Bible than what you typically will get on a Sunday morning. And that's not intended as a slap at pastors. I mean, we spend the whole hour just going through Scripture, which is not typically a normal church service.
Right.
But we came across Psalm 19. We're reading through in chronological order. So the Old Testament order is getting kind of funky now because we're doing a couple of Psalms, and then we've got 2 Samuel, then a couple of Psalms, then 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, then back to Psalms, because they're interposing the Psalms in the order that they were written in David's life, as best as scholars can figure them out. But we came across Psalm 19, and it talks about the heavens testifying to the glory of God's creation. And we live so far out of the city right now that we're beyond the reach of cable television. There is very little light pollution out here. Wow. Now, for a kid from Chicago, where all you can see in the sky at night is the moon and a few stars like Sirius, maybe Jupiter, Venus, and that's about it because of the glow of all of the halogen streetlights. Even in smaller towns in which we've lived with the streetlights, it's difficult to see the sky. Here, not only no sky, or no streetlights, we get very few trees, and I step outside, and first few nights I thought, wow, it's cloudy in that same exact spot in the sky every night. And then I realized, oh, that's the Milky Way. I can see the Milky Way. I mean, wow. I can see so much of the sky out here at night. It is awe-inspiring. And it just occurred to me that David, 3,000 years ago, was looking up at the same sky and moved to write this psalm that has been preserved for us through 3 millennia in beautiful language. Now, obviously, we're reading the English translations. I'm sure it's lost something. But still, I mean, to me, that was just jaw-dropping in thinking about that this guy who began as a shepherd and ended up as king over what was at that point in history one of the most powerful nations in that part of the world. I mean, Egypt was having a bad year, but which I'm sure helped. But he had the favor of God, and he was inspired and moved by the Holy Spirit to write these things. And I just think, wow, I am just, it is a blessing to be alive and be able to read this. It is a privilege to be able to read this and to know, especially because we're reading it in the chronological order. We're reading those Psalms side by side with the events in his life. And many of those Psalms came from the very depths of a very dark place in David's soul when he was running for his life from Saul, somebody against whom he had never done anything, never lifted a finger, even when he had the opportunity. And to see especially this song that he wrote, just glorifying God and thanking God for putting him in a place where he could see the majesty of God's creation and appreciate it, especially after having spent years running away from the king of the land who wanted to cut off his head, tried to spear him to the wall. It was just incredible. And so, those are the kinds of things that I'm just thankful that the Lord has been patient enough with me and has allowed me to live long enough to begin to appreciate some of these things. Because when I was younger, I didn't get it.
Wow.
I was chasing after the wrong things and in the wrong ways. And so every day now is just, even the days when things are not going as I would prefer, I have to step back, take a breath, and say, hey, look at where you are and what you are doing and for whom you are doing it. Now, look around at the world and those people who truly are suffering financially, physically. People on the other, in parts of the world were just expressing faith as openly as you and I are doing right now, are inviting arrest and death for doing so. I've got nothing to complain about. I'm the wealthiest man in the world.
Boom. That was powerful. Thank you, Derek. That's you're doing something right over there, pal. You're really doing something right over there.
Well,
and I'm glad to see that no matter how many of these podcasts come out, which you will be number 6, really the glory of creation comes up every single time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought it up this time and I didn't have to. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, man. This was really, really great. Besides Skywatch, is there anything you want to plug? Let our peeps know about?
Well, I just encourage you to check out the Bible study, gilberthouse.org. That Sharon and I are getting so much out of that. We've done about 70 of them, 75 of them now. And with each week that goes by, I just begin to appreciate more and more what we're doing, because it's easy when you're reading through the Bible and trying to stick to a schedule and you get to certain parts of the Bible. I'm kind of a history nerd. Yeah. And so stuff like 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, 1st and 2nd Samuel, that stuff. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Even the life of Jesus. Yeah. Okay. That's really cool. But you get into some parts of Leviticus, Deuteronomy, the stuff where all the law is, and it's easy to skip over that stuff. Okay, I'm going to get back to the action. Let me get through Leviticus so I can get to Joshua. That's where the stuff really gets good. But when you start digging into it and you're reading it out loud, you begin to realize that everything in there is in there for a reason. It wasn't extraneous. God didn't put filler in the Bible, okay? And I like the way Mike Heiser puts it. If it's
meat byproduct,
no protein meal, it's there for a reason. And when you're reading through it out loud and having to prepare because you're putting it out there for other people to listen to and hopefully learn from, you are kind of compelled to dig. And so I would really encourage gilberthouse.org. It is by no means a scholarly study, but hopefully we can convey some of the excitement that we feel at getting more out of the Bible than we have previously in the weekly uploads.
Okay. Sounds good. Give us that URL one more time.
gilberthouse.org.
Okay. Boom. Check it out. All right, buddy. Well, thanks so much. Go off and get your chicken.
I will, brother. Thanks.
Eat your chicken and tell Sharon I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I will.
All right,
it's been
buddy.
An honor, brother.
I could just listen to that guy all day long. That voice. Can you get over that voice? No. The answer is no. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I sure did. I know I sure say that after every episode, but it's true. It's just, don't judge me. I like it all. It's good stuff. Hope this episode brought some joy or some insight or all of it, all of the above into your life. And maybe, get to hear Derek talk about armadillos. How often do you get to hear that? Not very often is the answer. Well, I want to give a wonderful, heartfelt shout out to the Joyspiracy Theory's newest supporter. Everybody join me together in a rousing round of applause and cheer wherever you are to Julie. All right, Julie, you're really stepping up the game here. We got a lot of ladies supporting the show. So fellas, let's step it up a little bit here. Do we just have a bunch of rich ladies listening? There's a demographic for you. Rich ladies. Oh man. Okay. All right. So if you like this episode or any of the other episodes of the Joyspiracy Theory, go to iTunes or Stitcher or any of the podcast apps, or just right there on YouTube, I suppose, and leave a rating or a review with thumbs up and stars, and reviews too. That's always nice. Type in some words, let other people read those words and hear what you thought. It's not for nothing. Those ratings and those reviews tell sentient robots created by Apple and whoever owns Stitcher that this is I keep pointing out Stitcher, but all those podcast apps. Anyways, the sentient evil robots who work for those companies see that people like the show and they tell other people. Have you ever had like a robot come up to you and suggest a piece of podcasting that you'd like? Yeah, the answer is yes. It happens to us all the time. Also, if you guys like this episode or any of the other episodes, you should just share it. Just take the link and share it right on your Facebook or your Twitter or whatever you do, or just mouth to mouth. That sounded weird, but you just tell it to somebody with your words. Tell them about the Joyspiracy Theory, because we could all use a little bit more joy in our lives. And nothing means more than a podcast recommendation from your best pal. That's pretty much how I learned about all the podcasts in the world. So go ahead and do that. If you guys feel called or led or just urged in any way to help support the Joyspiracy Theory, you can go to patreon.com. That's patreon.com/The Joyspiracy Theory, or just search The Joyspiracy Theory Patreon on your selected web search engine. Go do that. But that's a great way to support the Joyspiracy Theory monthly for whatever you want. $1, $2. I'm going to do the whole bit again. $3. The possibilities are endless. Man, I should write for them. Patreon, hit me up. But you can do that right now. There are no specified rewards, so this would just be out of the kindness of your heart. But let me tell you, I'm online today, and I'm picking out rewards. I was looking. I think we're going to start small. Got some really cool the Joyspiracy Theory stickers that I'm getting made. And, if you want to get some of those, maybe a bundle of them, you can go to patreon.com and become a supporter of the show. I think that'll be a pretty low reward. So maybe, sign up for $5 or whatever. But as I come out with more rewards, if you're already signed up for that level of support, you just get it. You'll just get the reward in your mailbox or however you get packages delivered. Maybe like a drone, a sentient Amazon drone. A lot of robot talk in this in this outro. Anyways, guys, Thanks for listening to the Joyspiracy Theory. And here's my attempt at a tagline to end the show. Here we go. If you're a robot and you feel like a sad guy, you can listen to the Joyspiracy Theory and try to learn some human emotions. Probably not, though. Sorry. Holy smokes. All right. Well, if you think you have a better tagline to end the Joyspiracy Theory on, go to thejoyspiracytheory.com, and on the right side of the page, you'll see a leave a voicemail or a voice message button, and just click that. And it's super easy. You just click on it, and then you can leave a message. And you can just say hi, or you can help me figure out an ending tagline to the show. I would really appreciate it, because although this one, I believe, might have been my best tagline, still not very good. But here's one somebody left now.
Do you feel depressed? Dissatisfied with your lot in life? Is Eeyore your favorite Winnie the Pooh character? Do double rainbows fail to turn your frown upside down? Are you almost physically compelled to compose grouchy YouTube comments? If you are experiencing these symptoms, your condition has a name: chronic unshalom. For the boost of joy you need, consider listening to the Joyspiracy Theory for helpful advice in recovering from your chronic unshalom. Listening to the Joyspiracy Theory may result in compulsions, such as purchasing a cat or a juicer and the desire to take daily walks. The Joyspiracy Theory. Help keep the joy alive in your life.